Good afternoon, and welcome to the Wednesday afternoon conference call with Trusts Unlimited. This is Jim George speaking. I'm the non-attorney spokesman and facilitator for Trusts Unlimited, and I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to this call. It's August 13th, 2025. There's a lot going on, and so let's go ahead and get started. I did have to kind of distill the information simply because there was so much going on and so many little side trips I could take to get into explanations of this and that, but I decided to bottom line everything. This long ride, in my opinion, is just about over, and so I'm not going to continue to cover sort of complex subjects at this point. The people that are involved in this have been involved in it for the most part for a long time. A lot of the information they already are aware of, and so we just want to deal with the information, that's most relevant to our objective, and that, of course, is the reinstitution and revaluation of some of these currencies. So let's start with the players with regard to Iraq. I'm going to deal primarily with Iraq, but I'm going to touch on a couple of other countries. The primary player is Donald Trump. In my opinion, we'd be sitting on the dinar for a great many more months and even years waiting for this thing to happen. But Donald Trump's a rainmaker. He makes things happen. And I want to remind people, going all the way back to his candidacy in his first term. And he said a couple of things that pertain to the Iraqi dinar and those of us that have the currency. He said that we had to do something with the horrible trade deficits that we were dealing with. And he also said that he wanted a level playing field. And I'm going to explain that in a little bit more detail. But first, I want to touch on one of the problems that Iraq has had, and it's the nasty next-door neighbor, Iran. Iran is that neighbor that's always in your business, plays their cards close to the vest, but they just can't help themselves. They have to interject themselves in their neighbors' lives, and that's what the situation with Iran, has been. And they were threatening hegemony of the Middle East area, and of course that would affect economics with their nuclear program and their threats and their anti-American rants. And so at some point, Donald Trump decided that the Middle East and the United States and Europe, for that matter, had enough of the mullahs of Iran. So he neutralized them, took away all their toys, their nuclear weapons, and they've been relatively quiet. There is some mischief going on, and I'll get into that. But for the most part, at least for the time being, Trump's neutralized Iran. He's also embarked, and I've discussed this in the past, on a return to a new golden age in America. I've touched on this. The initial golden age was during a period of time roughly from 1880 to 1910, a period when the United States enriched itself externally through tariffs, not internally through an income tax. I never quite understood how an income tax would enrich the country anyway, because all we're doing is exchanging money among ourselves and our state, local, and federal government. So I never really understood how that would enrich the nation. But I do understand how income and revenue generated through tariffs would enrich a nation, and that's what's happening right now before our eyes. And I want to specifically mention a couple of countries, how this works. A country like China, for example, a country which we have had a trade deficit with, although it's dwindling, was able, and by the way, China, I think, is the only country in the world that has trade agreements with every other country. And they did quite well selling their junk because they had a devalued currency. Well, what the tariffs do is it negates the devalued currency by hitting them with draconian tariffs. But then there are countries like Iraq and Vietnam that have currencies in program rates. And sanctions and tariffs work very well as an incentive for these countries to reinstitute their currencies. And of course, for those of us that have dinar and dong and perhaps Indonesian rupiah and some of the other currencies, this is a very welcome tactic, not just in terms of our trade balances globally, but as individuals that are invested in these currencies. Now, in Iraq, another reason for the sanctions is, again, the Iranian influence and involvement uninvited in Iraq. And I'm referring here to the popular mobilization law. Basically, it's an Iranian-backed paramilitary group that's operating in Iraq. And, of course, their allegiance is not to Iraq. Their allegiance is to Iran. So it's another manifestation of Iran once again trying to pilfer the wealth of Iraq. Basically, Trump is negating that as well. So this is why Trump is a very important player in all of this. We right now are in perhaps the most important global economic period since the creation of the Federal Reserve in 1913. Now, the Federal Reserve of 1913 was the third iteration of a central bank of the United States. And what this did was create a fiat currency, meaning a currency backed by nothing other than the full faith and credit of the United States. But remember that from 1880 to 1910, the first golden age, the United States was a very wealthy nation. So even though the U.S. dollar was a fiat currency, it was still backed by the richest country in the world. And that was the case for decades. But then something happened. 1971, the United States went full fiat. In other words, the United States Federal Reserve dollar was backed to a certain extent by our natural resources, our gold, among other resources. But in 1971, under President Nixon, a Republican, a pro-Chinese Republican, we went off of the gold standard and we became a full fiat nation. And that's when hyperinflation, which is the loss of purchasing power to our dollar, really began to take hold. And that was a problem for us. And it was a problem for decades. But then in 1988, recognizing the problem, we started to do something globally called Basel compliance, meaning that currencies were no longer going to be based on the full faith and credit. That is, the value of the currency was not going to be based on something as ephemeral as the full faith and credit of that government, but it was going to be commodity-backed. And Basel compliance was a 5-phased program over several decades, meaning that as we go from phase 1 to 2, 3, and 4, etc., the nations had to back their currency with more natural resources. In other words, we're going back to real money, not monopoly money, not play money. So let's fast forward to Iraq. Remember, 1988, we began Basel compliance. Now, it can be argued that on paper, Iraq, per square mile, could be the richest country in the world. I've gone over this in detail in the past, but it's an embarrassment of natural wealth and resources in Iraq. But because the country was so poorly governed and was interfering in the internal affairs of other neighboring nations, Saddam Hussein decided that he was going to invade Kuwait. As a result, the Iraqis were expelled from Kuwait and their currency was put into a program rate, meaning it was essentially worthless globally. Then we came along as Basel compliant phases were moving on, and we invested in the Iraqi dinar. So we purchased 1 million Iraqi dinar, for example, for about $1,000, meaning we purchased a currency that we knew at the time was virtually worthless, but we knew that as they rehabilitated themselves, that at some point in time we would be able to exchange that currency for substantially more. As a matter of fact, most of us believed, and I think rightly so, that when we went to the bank to exchange the worthless program rate Iraqi dinar that we purchased 5 years ago, 10 years ago, even 20 years ago, we would receive a windfall profit. Well, we are on the threshold of that right now. So let's talk a little bit about the cast of characters in this little saga. The lead character is Trump for the reasons that I've explained. But let's talk about some of the other characters. In country, in Iraq, we have Prime Minister Soudani. We have the Minister of Finance Saleh. And we have the governor of the CBI, Alak. They are all trying in their own way to implement the monetary reforms that were initially instituted by Dr. Shabibi 10, 15 years ago. There's one other player brought into this by Trump, and that is the Wyman Group. Wyman Group's an international accounting banking firm whose husbandry with Iraq will help finalize the monetary reform in that country. As a matter of fact, the target for the completion of the monetary reform, which in my opinion includes the announcement of the new exchange rate, is September 1st. They believe that they can resolve all of the issues that are necessary by September 1st. So, again, what Trump has done is he has implemented punitive tariffs and sanctions on all of the Middle East countries. He's de-dollarizing those countries. Trump has brought in the Oliver Wyman Group to assist Iraq with meeting all of its international banking standards and practices. And the group, the Wyman Group, has given Iraq until September 1st to implement the necessary banking reforms. So in my opinion, regarding the reinstitution and revaluation of the IQD, we're not talking years, we're not talking months. In my opinion, we're talking weeks. And again, to go back to what I said in the beginning, the maestro for all of this is Trump. I don't think anyone else could have done this. And he made it clear all the way back to his first term when he was running for office that he was going to neutralize our trade deficits and have an equal playing field, meaning no more currency manipulation to market trade. And, of course, that got interrupted when he was not reelected for a second consecutive term. But he had 4 years to refine what he was doing, and that's why he hit the ground running. And he's done more in the last 100-plus days than the predecessor did in 4 years, largely because he had a clear mind about what he was trying to accomplish. So those of us that hold these currencies, particularly the Iraqi dinar, are going to benefit from the second term of Donald Trump. Now, Trusts Unlimited got involved for a very simple reason. Because we were of the belief that the Iraqi dinar and some of the other currencies that were in a program rate were going to enjoy a windfall profit. From an estate planning standpoint, it behooves you to assign those assets to the trust before they revalue. So it's not just a matter of, as investors, we found an investment, a long-term investment that we thought we would reap a windfall profit. We went a step beyond that and said, now what do we do to ensure that we can protect that profit for ourselves, and our children? These are the things that the establishment of the trust is going to do. First, you are going to enjoy privacy and anonymity. These are not things that you would enjoy, by the way, as I go through these benefits, by establishing single trusts, sub-S corporations, LLCs, or limited family partnerships. They don't even come close. Nothing beats a package common law trusts for the protection I'm going to explain to you. First, your privacy and your anonymity. By establishing your trust package, in addition to protecting your privacy and your anonymity, you will make it extremely difficult, if not impossible, for anyone to successfully sue you. And frivolous lawsuits absolutely cannot succeed. You will also avoid IRS scrutiny, because by establishing this trust, you will significantly avoid the possibility of an IRS audit. Why? Because IRS audits primarily go after low-hanging fruit. A very sophisticated trust package with very sophisticated and knowledgeable legal representation of things that the IRS specifically avoids. So any such audit of your trust, even if it were to occur, would be confined to the year in which the RV occurred. There's no other taxable event in which to audit. The trust will also allow you to avoid gift taxes and pre-RV gifting. By gifting pre-RV currencies to friends and family through the trust, you will not only avoid the federal gift tax, but you will retain control of the post-RV proceeds. We have a lot of individuals that are concerned about family, children, even friends that they want to give currencies to, but they know for whatever reason these people are simply incapable of managing that wealth. However, utilizing the gift sub-trust in our package means you have all the benefits of the pre-RV gifting, but you still have control of the post-RV proceeds. Fourth benefit of the trust is going to allow your estate to avoid the cost and delay of probate and the federal estate tax. Your trust will allow your estate, again, to bypass the cost and delay of probate, making any inheritance immediately available to your heirs. It will also allow you to avoid the federal estate tax, which can be as high as 55% of your estate in excess of $12 million. And lastly, preemptive asset protection, because the people that are targets of lawsuits are wealthy individuals. The objective of a lawsuit, obviously, is a payday. So you don't want to sue somebody that's broke. You want to sue someone that's wealthy. So one of the risks that you have as a wealthy individual is the possibility of a post-RV lawsuit. However, by placing your pre-RV currencies in trust, only the value of those currencies at the time of the transfer would ever be subject to you personally in a civil suit. In other words, you have 10 million dinar that are worth $10,000. You transfer them out of title to the trust. So if anyone wants to sue you personally, that asset's only worth $10,000 when you transferred it out of trust. But post-RV, by placing each individual asset you control in its own separate sub-trust, remember, this is a package of trusts. So each physical asset, homes, cars, boats, etc., will go into a separate, segregated subtrust. And by placing each individual asset you control in its own separate subtrust, you will be able to limit any potential loss of a civil suit. In other words, if someone slips in one of your rental properties or you're in a car accident, only that asset would be involved in the litigation because all of the other assets are in separate subtrusts, which under the law are separate legal entities not involved in the litigation. So this trust protects you pre-RV. This trust protects you post-RV. This trust will provide you certain tax benefits that are unavailable through other assets, provides asset protection not available, again, through single trusts, sub-S corporations, LLCs, or limited family partnerships, and you still retain complete control of the assets within the trust. It is the best of both worlds. Now, we are, in my opinion, very close to the day that we're going to go to the bank to do our exchange. So I would strongly suggest those of you listening that have not done so would contact us either by phone or email to get our initial no-obligation package. It does contain everything you need if you wish to proceed, but you're under no obligation to do so. You can review the package, contact us if you have any questions. We'll be happy to assist you. It's taking us a little longer to get back to people, which is another reason you may want to get this as soon as possible, simply because we're being inundated with requests. People that have been following this for some time agree with me that we are very, very close to the day that we're going to go to the bank to do our exchange. But you'll get your package. Everything you need is there if you wish to proceed. One additional document in the package is the exchange protocol if you have a trust. When you go to the bank, the process of the exchange is going to be a little different because not only will you negotiate the currency exchange and the rate, and as well as the transaction fee, but you will place the USD from the exchange in the trust bank account that will be established that day at that bank. And so there is a document there that will walk you through that process as well. I'm going to go ahead and go to the Q&A here. As a matter of fact, let me go to the Q&A and then I'll give you our contact information here. And while I'm waiting for any potential questions, I want to give you our contact information. If you'd like to get our initial no-obligation package, you can contact us by email or phone. Our email address is trusts with an S, Unlimited LLC at gmail.com. That's trusts with an S, Unlimited LLC at gmail.com. And our phone service, which is 307-274-4122. That's 307-274-4122. Contact us by email or phone. We'll get our trust package out to you as quickly as possible. If you have any questions, you also have the contact information, and we'll be happy to assist you. So let's go to our Q&A here. Our first caller is area code 347.
Yes, hello? 347. Okay, now you spoke about the popular mobilization law. Now, if that passes and Trump puts sanctions on Iraq, that probably is going to delay the RV, right?
I think it would delay it, but not for very long. I don't think that it's going to pass. But even if it does pass, I think Trump is very, very good at pressure. So I think what could also happen is the law could pass. Trump could then respond and put pressure on them, and then they could go back in and amend the law to make it more comparable to what's necessary for the reinstitution and revaluation of the dinar.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Bye-bye now. That has really been an issue, and this is indicative of the Iranian influence. The way I look at this is their absolute last gasp. They've done everything they could. They tried to isolate Iraq. They had troops in Iraq. They were killing Americans in Iraq. And then, of course, Trump came along, took out Soleimani, and now we went back in, took out their nuclear program. So as far as I'm concerned, this is Iraq hanging by its fingernails on the edge of the cliff, and Trump's about to step on their hands if they try anything else. So, the thing does exist, and it is a problem, but I think it's a problem that can be dealt with. And once again, Trump's just not playing with these people, and I don't think it's going to be an impediment to the reinstitution and revaluation. Our next caller is area code 619. That's 619. Go ahead.
Hey, Jim. How you doing?
Eddie, how are you doing?
I'm doing excellent. Just grayer and older, my friend.
Hey, yeah, right. Me too.
At least that's what the mirror tells me anyways. So,
well, it's funny. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead. Finish up.
Well, what I was going to say was I was opening today our website, and I had a picture of me in there, and my hair was black, and my hair now is white. So I'm going to have to upgrade or up whatever.
Hey, a lot of us are still hoping we'll just have hair by the time this thing happens,
Damn right, yeah. Well, some of us are pulling it out.
Hey, Jim, question for you. With regards to the bank exchanging a lot of our currencies, and we're talking some large amounts, right? Are they going to be able to take and do that without being capped out, saying, look, we don't have enough reserves to handle all this money, so we have to go to 1 to 3 banks to do our exchange, complete it fully?
The banks that we will be going to do the exchange will have the liquidity.
Okay.
The Central Bank of the United States knows what's going on, so that shouldn't be a problem at all. But let's say hypothetically that it is. So you go to another major bank. If you don't exchange, some people have said to me they don't want to exchange it all at one bank anyway. So, but I don't think we're going to have
if let's say you go to one bank, say no, we can only do so much on your exchange, then you got to go to a different bank. Now that pushes you back in getting an appointment, so you might not go for another week or two, and you could lose, certain benefits. So my concern is hopefully being able to exchange all at one and then transfer it to other banks once the exchange is completed.
Look, there's no escaping this. You could go to one bank, get lucky, they exchange it all, and then the next day you realize, oh, my God, it just went up another 25 cents. If I'd only done half of it at that bank and gone to another bank, now it cost me $300,000. I mean,
right.
You got to look at it like I paid $1,000 per million, and if I only got $1 for it, it's the best day in the office you're ever going to have. So it's hard to do emotionally, but it's all gravy. It really is. It really is. We're going to be in real good shape.
I was watching a video yesterday, and it talked about blessings. It talked about a lot of money and things of that nature. But the most prized gift that any one person can have is quality relationships and love. And so although we might receive a substantial amount of money, at the end of the day, at the end of our lives, that dash between the years we were born and the years we pass away, that's probably the most important dash of anyone's life. So we just need to remember that although we're excited about what we're about to receive, I think the real excitement comes more with what we can do with it. And we make sure it gets put in the proper hands or the proper places rather than our government to take and spend it and waste it. That being said, are you still working with some of the state banks that you said won't be tied to certain things?
Well, I haven't talked to them lately, but we've got. We initially got involved with them when there was a real push under the Biden administration with the digital currency, and we wanted to go to states where we weren't going to have an issue with that. That situation is somewhat gone away, but the thing about the digital currency is it's really going to stop a lot of corruption, but we to a certain degree, give up some control because we're not in physical possession. You're never in physical possession of a digital currency. It's always in the possession of the central bank of that country. That's true. But, again, we got 3 more years of Trump and, in my opinion, 4 more years of J.D. Vance. So I'm not worried that any of our constitutional rights or access to our wealth in any way is going to be involved. And, of course, you know, when we start talking about what to do with the money, one of the things I want to do is I don't want it liquid. I don't want it in the banking system. I want it in tangible, physical assets, particularly real estate, that I have complete control of. So, but that's a post-RV discussion, and we will get into that. But like I said, I'm very happy with the people that are calling the shots right now, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. So that's where I'm coming from.
That brings up my last question, if I may.
Sure.
Being that those of us who have the trust, okay, and then let's say we transfer it onto the private side of the bank, and it's electronic currency there. Does that give us any more protection than the individual who didn't have the trust and try to get to the private side? Does that trust give us an extra benefit as far as them having control of it?
Well, I'll tell you what the extra benefit is. If you have a sophisticated trust, the banks are well aware of the fact that you probably have sophisticated legal counsel, and so they're not going to. It's highly unlikely that they're going to play games with you as opposed to Joe Lunchbox. You know, so. And, of course, it's also true that if you do have a problem, you do have the legal representation to pick up the phone and say, knock it off or else, you know.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, Jim, you're always great. I appreciate you, and
Sure.
Hopefully we'll get to meet up soon.
Sure. By the way, one other thing about the trust, obviously we're marketing the trust to Denarians, but I cannot underestimate for people to understand the inherent advantage they have to transfer an asset to trust before it appreciates. That goes for any asset. But we're not talking about maybe a land option that you know is going to be very wealthy down the road. We're talking about a currency that you pay next to nothing for, that's going to make you a multimillionaire overnight. By transferring that out of title to the trust, you've protected it in ways that it cannot be done any other way. Can't happen if you own it individually. There's no other entity, legal construct that exists that provides more protection. I've gone through that with you. So, you know, it's a twofer. You not only acquire the wealth, but you manage to protect it. You have tax advantages. You have privacy. You can create assets for friends and family and still retain control of them. You avoid probate. You avoid the federal estate tax. I mean, you're just off the grid, and that's the only way it can be done, period. So,
doesn't it provide eminent domain should your house be owned by the trust?
Well, I'm not sure what. Oh, yes. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And nothing else will do that. You can't do it with a sub-S corporation, an LLC, a limited family partnership, a statutory trust. You can't do it with any other asset, any other entity, rather. So, you know, time is running short, people. Give us a call. We'll send the package out to you. Review it for yourself. All right?
Thanks, Jim.
Sure. Okay, Eddie. Take care. Okay, our next caller is area code 615. That's 615. Go ahead.
Good morning, Jim.
Yes.
You mentioned earlier at the top of your conversation today that you might touch on some other countries and currencies.
Yes. I didn't do that.
Nope.
Well,
I'm just reminding, just a general nudge.
Yeah, well, of course, the Vietnamese dong, and I've gotten into a discussion with the dong. It's almost as though everything that was done 100 years ago is being undone. Transitioning to fiat, Western central bank fiat currencies, and that's all being transitioned now to real money where the currencies are Basel compliant, backed by assets. And then on top of that, we managed to purchase a currency in a program rate from a country that arguably per square mile is the richest country in the world that's about to become a Basel IV compliant currency. I mean, it's almost like you won the lottery, really, because of the confluence of events that created a situation where we purchased that currency for nothing, and it went into a program rate at 322 decades ago, and now we've got the country that's been completely rehabilitated and rebuilt. Then we have add the inflation to it. Then you add the Basel compliance to it. The currency guys that I've mentioned this on the call, extrapolating from the Kuwaiti dinar, said in their opinion they'll be shocked if the Iraqi dinar isn't at least at 485. So if that's the case, let's just split it between 322 and 485. What's that? That's about $4. So $1,000 investment. Yeah, $1,000 investment turns into $4 million. Of course, everyone would laugh and say that's ridiculous. You know, it's not ridiculous. That's literally the math. You know, so, and we're not talking years anymore. We're probably not even talking months. We're talking weeks at this point. That's how close we are, in my opinion.
You know, if you take when it where it was before it went into the program rate at 322 or somewhere in that neighborhood,
yeah,
and you factor in 20 years of inflation, 485, in my opinion, is not unrealistic.
I know. Well, Shabibi, who of course is the author of the monetary reform that they're instituting now, said that he thought the dinar should be double digit against the U.S. dollar. And you know, and so at $5, I'll take 322 today, and I'm out of here. But I really think it's 485 is, you know, like I said, this guy was extrapolating from the Kuwaiti dinar, and he said, look, this is Kuwait, this is what it's worth, this is what, in terms of Basel compliance rationale, this is what Iraq is against Kuwait. So he did the math. Said to me, that's 485. You can't argue with it. It's math.
Do your friends have any thoughts on the dong, where it might come out at?
You know what? I didn't get into the dong with them. These guys they're busy guys, and I'm lucky I get to
understand.
You know, talk to them a little bit, and they play it a little bit close to the vest, but they were not shy about the Iraqi dinar, although I think everyone is a little bit surprised at how long this is taking. The Obama administration not only dragged its feet, it set this back a ways for reasons I used to get into. I don't talk about that guy anymore because he's ancient history, thank God. You know, although I think Trump's got some scores to settle, and I think Obama's on the short list. But that's another story.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, sir.
Sure. You take care. Bye now. Okay, our next caller is area code 210. That's 210. Go ahead.
Hey, Jim, it's Theodore in San Antonio.
Yes, sir.
We've had a family problem that we needed to adjust the trust, and I thought maybe if you could give me a call afterwards, I could fill you in maybe.
Okay, I'm writing your number down. I'm going to call you after this call, okay? And did you say your first name's Theodore? Because that's not the name on the screen here.
Yeah, Ted.
Ted.
Oh, yeah. No,
well, actually,
it's a business phone. Yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
This is a good call.
By the way, do you know what Theodore means?
It's love, right?
It's the Greek, Theodoros. It means gift of God.
God, yeah.
It's my middle name. That's how I happen to know that.
Okay.
But I'll give you a call right after this call, okay?
I appreciate it, Jim, and appreciate all your information. It's really helpful all this time. Thank you.
Thanks very much. I appreciate your compliment. Bye-bye now. Next caller here is area code 734. That's 734. Go ahead.
Jim, hi. This is Lori calling from Ann Arbor.
Yes.
First time I've called in. Hello.
How are you? I got a lot of family in it.
Yeah, games are about to start. Yay.
I know.
Very excited.
Yeah.
Very excited. My question, please. With the appointment of Scott Bessent as IRS Commissioner, do you see clearer guidance coming out of the IRS regarding the taxation situation, whether there is any, whether it will be indeed capital gains or ordinary income? That's my question.
Okay, I can get into a very long, complicated, tortured explanation for my answer, but this is my answer. I would hope for cap gain, but I believe it's going to be treated as ordinary income.
Still.
Now, yeah, because these people are in there, they might try to declare it to be cap gain. But, we did a lot of research on that, and I had the statutes, and I had all of that, and I don't have it in front of me right now, but we didn't like it. I mean, we were hoping cap gain, but all the lawyers looked at it and said, we just think they're going to call it ordinary income. But the mere fact that we had to do all of this work to come to a conclusion means they could do all of that work and come to another conclusion. Or, Trump could say, who's going to sue the IRS and say, no, I don't want to pay cap gain. I want to pay ordinary income.
If we even have an IRS, right?
Right, exactly. Well, but some of the left-leaning groups that like to pilfer, they don't want to. They know that the vast majority of denarians are middle-class people, and they know that after the revaluation, these people are going to be fairly well-to-do. They're not going to be quote-unquote middle-class anymore, which means they're not going to vote for higher taxes and more regulations. So they might feel the need to sue to declare this ordinary income. Well, but we have, once again, we have the right people in Washington that are in control of the situation, that they might even say, look, this is a completely, totally unique situation. It doesn't fall within the rubric of the regulations, or if it does, it's such a rarity, we're going to call it cap gain. I mean, we'll just have to. This is all kind of uncharted, for us.
All right, that's my hope, is that he's Trump's guy. He's double dipping, dual role as Treasury Secretary and now IRS Commissioner. And I'm hoping that when he starts reading the rules and realizing that they're pretty damn fuzzy, that this is just an exchange. It's just like going to Canada from Windsor, right? Like, okay, I need some money, I'm running over there for the day, I come back and I need to exchange it back. Just because it happens to be millions shouldn't matter, right?
Yeah, I could be wrong, but in the back of my mind, what comes up is a case. It was the IRS versus Caterpillar. I don't know why that comes up, but I think it has something to do with cap gain versus ordinary income. I'm going to check it. Don't hold me to that, but I'm going to check that out. There was something that happened in the past that make me think that this is cap gain. I'm not an IRS agent. I'm not a tax specialist, but I seem to recall, again, it was the IRS versus Caterpillar. I don't know why that comes to mind, but I'm going to check that out. And again, I'm not saying that's the answer to your question, but it might be. So, that's all I can give you for now.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, and let's hope for the best here, right?
Okay, that's right. Take care now.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Sure. Bye-bye. Our next caller is area code 810. That's 810. Go ahead.
Hi, Jim. This is Diane. How are you?
Okay. How are you, Diane?
I'm doing good. I have two questions. First one is this. Now, I know you said that you would probably be going away or, kind of slipping in the background once this takes place. So when it comes to us needing to maybe get in contact with Trusts Unlimited, will we be able to just call someone or the office?
All of that information will be provided to you. And if I leave, you will have all the contact information you need. You're not going to be left high and dry at all. You'll have all the information you need. Remember, after the RV, you're still going to be, as a matter of fact, you're going to be more involved with Trusts Unlimited because you're going to be funding sub-trusts, asking questions, making changes to your trust, adding other types of trusts. I'll just give you one example. Let's say you had 10 million dinar, and let's say that you got $3 for it. So now you got $30 million in your trust. And let's say, I'm just trying to keep it simple, it's ordinary income, and now after taxes you have $15 million in your trust. And you say to us, well, I want to leave some money to my church and to the private school I went to and to a certain hospital, etc. Say, okay, we'll take $5 million and we'll put it into something called a charitable remainder trust, which means when you pass away, your family, your heirs, will get the $10 million, and the $5 million that you put into the charitable remainder trust will go to those named charities. But it means something else. It means all of the income generated by that $5 million, because you gave it to charity, is tax-free income to you. So we'll be discussing all of the options and ramifications of the RV afterward. We won't be marketing the trust. We'll be servicing the existing trusts and the people that have the trusts. And this is just one example of some of the things we can do.
Okay. Now, one other question. This might be afterwards too, but I want to get some clarification. I asked you this, but I just want to make sure that I understood it correctly. So I asked in regards to the gifting trust. So if I say I'm going to leave maybe my grandson X amount, I want to put X amount for him, set aside for him. So would that be put into would I have to open up an account for him, or how would I be able to, and when I open the account, would it be his name, my name on it, or how do I do that?
Okay, are you talking about when you pass away, or are you talking about after the RV?
After the RV, just
okay, if these are minors, then you or their parent or an adult, someone of age, would have to co-sign with a joint account for the benefit of that individual child. You would do it that way. If you have our gift sub-trust, what would happen is, rather than putting the money in an account in their name, you've earmarked the money for them within the sub-trust, and you'll be managing that directly. So if you want to, for example, pay tuition for college, or pay for their private school, or purchase their first car, or something like that, you would be doing that yourself in their name.
Okay, so what if they're older and you just want to, it's earmarked, but then if you want to give it to them, you could maybe give them some of it. You want. So you could put it into say if they have an account, you want to just maybe put X amount in there, so much per month or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. You could do it. You could just do an automatic monthly transfer. So if you had 3 grandchildren that were of age, and you say, I'm going to deposit $1,000 a month to each of your accounts, you could do it. Yeah, and again, we'll discuss all these options, because now it's not a matter of acquiring the wealth. Now it's a matter of managing it, protecting it, disseminating it, and all of that. So we'll be having all of those discussions. But what a lot of people will do is just that. Now, you do run into one problem, and that is this. There are situations where you've got blended families from, there have been divorces and then marriages. And the other issue is, unfortunately, in the real world, you have children that have drinking or drug problems or problems with the law. So you don't necessarily want to give them money that you know they're going to misuse. So there are mechanisms in place to manage. In other words, money will be available for certain things.
Okay.
But again,
okay.
That's a post-RV discussion. But my point is, we will be discussing the proper way to manage the wealth once it's been acquired. Everyone's situation is going to be different, but we'll do the best we can to help you put in place the things you need to make sure the money is spent the way you want it spent.
Okay. Well, that's pretty much basically. I understand it. What you're saying. Okay. Well, thank you, and
Sure.
Hopefully this thing will go soon.
Yeah.
So.
It's just there's just not much more left to do. I mean, the only thing left is hand-wringing sessions. That's it.
Okay. So if in fact if it goes into September, is that the next time far as taxes, being able to, have to pay the taxes, or would it be best for it to take place this month?
If it happens in September, taxes would be due on October 15th. We've discussed this. We want to see. We can't control this, but from our standpoint, we want to see the reinstitution or revaluation in the first month of a given quarter, which means we have 60 to 90 days to ascertain what the tax is, and allows us time so we don't have to run to the bank to exchange it at whatever the rate is because the tax is due in 2 weeks. And remember, if it's ordinary income, you're looking at, 44.6%. You don't pay the tax in a timely fashion, you're looking at 100% penalty. That's close to 90%. So you just got wiped out because you didn't pay the tax. So the tax is a monster we have to deal with. But, once again, if it happens in September, remember, taxes would be due on the 15th of November. So you got to get in there. You got to do your exchange. You got to have the liquidity. You want to have a tax advisor, someone or a tax firm representing you. You want to make sure you dot all the I's and cross all the T's so these clowns don't take it from you, because they will if they can.
Okay. So then, once you exchange and put everything into the trust, so if I decide that I want to get a maybe pretty good interest rate or something like that, so the bank would say, all right, I need you to leave X amount with me. So, but it's still in the trust, correct?
Well, whatever you want to do, it's only with after-tax money. We'll ascertain. We'll go to the IRS. We'll make the argument for cap gain, win or lose. We'll know what the tax is. So if you have $10 million and you know the tax is $4 million, then you have $6 million to work with. It's just that simple. You don't lock up money that you're going to have to pay taxes on, because then you're going to have a problem.
Okay. Thank you, then. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye now. Okay, our next caller is area code 301. That's 301. Go ahead.
Hey, Jim. This is Wanda.
Yes.
Jim,
how are you?
my question is, if a person has is drawing Social Security or anything like that, would they just automatically stop it prior to or during the RV or the post RV?
Well, because this is such an unorthodox event, and because it involves so much money, it would definitely affect the amount that you would receive in Social Security. So what you would do is you would just notify Social Security. The same thing if you won the lottery. You call them up and say, well, look, I just won $1 million, okay? I just want to inform you of that so you can adjust my Social Security, and they'll do it. You won't have a problem.
Okay.
That shouldn't be a problem at all.
Right, with that type of monies that you would receive with the NAR, you would probably not even want to continue to do that, you would think?
Well, I mean, there's a certain amount you're entitled to. What you do if you don't need it or want it, you just donate that to charity or give it away.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. And you don't need it anymore. That doesn't mean that you don't want it or that you can't do something with it. You just don't need it.
Right. Okay. So you can take that income and use that as a donation to a charity.
Yeah. Or church.
Instead of using your denarian money.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying that's something that you could easily give to someone else or something else. You know, your Social Security check is, I'm just making up a number, $1,500 a month. So you find a charity you like and you just send them $1,500 a month.
Okay. And my other question is just like the lady before. So if you have some health issues or you want to set up for the rest of your duration, your health thing, then is there a way you could do it in the trust?
No, but you would establish a health maintenance trust. In our firm, actually, one of the trusts that has become a mainstream was actually written by one of the attorneys in our firm. So, you know, there are a lot of spin-off trusts depending upon what you're trying to do. But if you have an issue, a health issue, and you want to create an entity or a trust to manage money for the benefit of that health issue, that can be done as well.
Okay. That was one of the things I was concerned about, you know, in the future with making sure that those things that I need taken care of be taken care of.
Yeah, well, you know, everyone is on the same page pre-RV. You purchase the currencies, you've established the trust, and you go to the bank, negotiate your exchange, put the money in the trust bank account established that day at the bank. After that, everyone's going in a different direction, different ages, different health situations, different family situations, different charitable things on your heart, all of that. So whatever direction you need to go, we can assist you with that.
Okay.
All right?
Well, thank you for all that you do, and all the times we have these questions that we just don't know that you answer.
Well, I appreciate that.
To the best of your knowledge.
I'm doing the best I can. But you take care, Wanda, all right?
Thank you so much.
Okay, bye-bye now. Well, Wanda was our last caller for this afternoon. Again, thanks so much for taking the time to listen to this call. I'm going to reiterate what I said before. We're not talking years or months anymore. In my humble opinion, we're talking weeks. So if you've not contacted us to get our initial no-obligation package, I strongly suggest you do so. Time may be short, and for those of us that have established our trust and have their affairs in order, we want this thing over yesterday. I'll give you our contact information. Again, you can contact us by email or by phone. Our email address is trusts with an S, unlimited LLC @gmail.com. Trusts with an S, unlimited LLC @gmail.com, or our phone service 307-274-4122. That's 307-274-4122. Contact us by email or phone. We'll get our trust package out to you right away. We'll do everything we can to help you get your trust in force and your currencies assigned to that trust pre-RV. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. Certainly, if something of a dramatic nature were to happen between now and next Wednesday, our regularly scheduled call, we'll try to get out an emergency email and schedule an emergency conference call. But failing that, we'll be back next Wednesday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Have a great week, everyone. Thanks for listening. God bless.